Joining us live from Islamabad, Pakistan is journalist Javed Rana. Now, Javed, I'd like to begin with the questions now. Iran's President Ebrahim Raisi has been confirmed killed after the helicopter he was traveling in crashed in poor weather yesterday. What details can you share about the circumstances leading up to the helicopter crash that killed President Ebrahim Raisi and other senior officials?
Well, all the news that is coming from that part of Iran suggests that it looks like an accident because of thick fog, I think because of which the Iranian president's helicopter had a hard crashing. And we have little information about the circumstances as a result of which the helicopter was crashed. But one thing is very certain, that the weather was very bad. But at the same time, we have to also look at a bigger picture, because some Iranians have a lingering suspicion about the role of Israel, because Israel has been behind so many assassinations against top Iranian scientists in the past. But that would be just a speculation at this particular point of time. What we certainly know is that he has died in an accident, and obviously that is a loss, a great loss of a mega proportion to the Iranian people, to the Iranian government, and for the time being it has caused a kind of a crisis. The Iranian nation is in mourning period, and quite understandably at a time when Iran has been facing one of the greatest challenge since the Iranian revolution back in 1978-79. I think this is the first time that they are having a kind of a clear conflict, a warlike situation in the entire region, from Yemen to Middle East, from Red Sea to Gaza. And we have seen that so many other crashes have been taking place in Iraq, in Syria, where their proxies have been fighting against the US, and more particularly with Israel. At that particular point of time, the accidental death, what is, I would say, looks like an accidental death, I think that is a tragedy, that is a great loss for Iran. But at the same time, we have to understand that the kind of the system that the Iranian ideological setup has evolved over the period of time, there would be continuation of the Iranian hardline policy towards Israel. It is not going to disrupt that policy. That is most unlikely to happen. He was the second powerful figure, at least, if not second, then at least third powerful figure after Iranian Revolutionary Guards and Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. So again, he was in the chain of commands, and I think he was, being the president, is the only face which is elected by the people of Iran. So this is, for the time being, it has caused a crisis in Iran, but certainly my understanding is that they will come out of it. But let me here also point out some Western media, some pro-Israel media. I mean, they are again playing a mischief, and they are saying that people in Iran, they have celebrated his death. This is a complete nonsense. The problem with the Western media is that they look at everything with the Western lenses, portraying everything in Iran as an evil. But I think the bigger picture is that Iran has resisted apartheid Israel at a time when all other countries have compromised. They are silent. Apart from Turkey, we have not seen any genuine sound voice coming against apartheid state Israel other than Iran. So obviously, President Raisi was the face of Iran. And let me also here recall, just a couple of weeks ago, Iranian president was in Islamabad, and on the invitation of Iranian embassy, I attended a seminar, a kind of gathering of select people, and I heard him speaking on Israel and Palestinian conflict. And I found him that he was a genuine ideologue. He did believe that opposing Israel was the first and foremost duty of the Muslims. And then he highlighted the entire political spectrum that is being challenged now by the apartheid regime across the world. And then I think more importantly, we have to see that he was hardliner, and he was completely synced with the Iranian Revolutionary Guard and also the supreme leader Ali Khamenei. And many say, and there are credible reports suggesting that he was one of the potential candidate to replace the supreme leader in years to come. Therefore, I think it is a loss, but certainly I think the Iranian would feel it.
Now, how is the Iranian government responding to the sudden loss of President Raisi and the other officials on board the helicopter, who is in charge of running the affairs of the country now?
Well, the first vice president obviously has taken over. He's in charge, and under the constitution of Iran, he will look after the duties of the president. I think there is no constitutional crisis in Iran. There is no legal crisis. Even I would say there is no political crisis. Iran is in mourning period. People are quite sad for understandable reason. But at the same time, I think within the next 50 days under the Iranian constitution, there would be elections. Now, the bigger question is who is going to replace him? There are still, again, it is a conjecture. We can't, at this particular point of time, predict who would replace him. But again, there are among the names that I have heard is going to be Ahmadinejad. And Ahmadinejad, you know, he's again very hardliner, more hardliner than the president who has died. So again, I think it doesn't bode well for Israel because whosoever will be there as a president, it is going to be the Iranian Revolutionary Guards. It's going to be the supreme leader who would call shots, and the Iranian president, whosoever that may be, he will simply he will simply toe the line. So I think, again, this is a loss for Iran, but that loss is not irreparable.
Now, what impact might President Raisi's death have on Iran's domestic policies and its current approach to international relations, especially considering the heightened tensions in the region?
Well, he is perceived to be not reformist like the President Rafsanjani. So I think in his case, he has pursued a very hardline policy to the main bigger issue, and that is Iran's negotiation with the European countries, and previously also with the USA indirectly. And Iran, his government has been maintaining a very tough stance, as a result of which I think there are reports suggesting that Iran is close to make a nuclear bomb. And that is also apprehension by apartheid Israelis, Europe, and the US. I think Iran has not budged its stance because Europe and the other Western countries, particularly US, has been pursuing Israeli agenda to denuclearize Iran, to basically deprive Iran of its sovereign right to make a nuclear program. So I think in that context, we have seen that his government had taken a very strong stance, and he pursued that strong stance because what Israel through USA was looking for, basically to put a ban on Iran's long-range missiles program, and also to make it sure that Iran does not make a nuclear bomb. I think confusion still prevails, and that is where the outgoing president, the late president, I think did not give in. And again, on the domestic side, certainly there are big economic challenges, and I think he has not been able to cope with. And that is quite understandable at a time when Iran is facing the worst ever European sanctions, more particularly the American sanctions, and I think part of which has been of the UN sanctions. So nonetheless, Iran has survived. And Iran looked towards China, looked towards Russia. With China, Iran had more than $400 billion agreements. And I think Iran has also managed to build up its defense industry, its nuclear program, and also I think laid the foundation of economic prosperity by inking a mega economic deals with China. I think that goes to the credit of the late president.
Now, I know you said the incident seems like an accident, but what measures are being taken to investigate the cause of the helicopter crash, and how will the Iranian government ensure transparency in this process?
Well, I think one thing is very clear, and that going by the stories that I have monitored from the media that suggest that the helicopter that the Iranian president was using was an old one. Probably it needed some kind of upgrade. I think preferably there should have been an upgraded helicopter. But again, since Iran has been under sanction, Iran could not have access to the latest equipments. And again, this would be again a kind of conjecture I don't want to get into, but the fact of the matter is that Iran was hit by the sanctions. But I think the kind of the resilience that the Iranian regime and the people of Iran have shown over the period of time, I think that one must acknowledge that. Nonetheless, they have survived, and they are, I would say, they have begun to thrive. If we cannot say that they're thriving, but I think there are signs economically where we can say that they have begun to thrive, given the fact that Iran, under his leadership, had lot many agreements with the China, and that would certainly bring hundreds of billions of dollars to the Iranian economy, if not now, but obviously in years to come.
Now, in light of Tehran's heightened tensions with Israel following last month's rocket attacks, what is the likelihood that foreign involvement played a role in the helicopter crash that killed President Ebrahim Raisi?
Well, again, this is going to be speculation, but certainly Israel would leak reports to the media, trying to take credit, basically. I use the word credit, quote unquote, for the assassination of the Iranian president. There are speculation in pro-Israel media suggesting that Israel might have a hand in his assassination. But again, there is no evidence at this point of time, but that possibility certainly cannot be ruled out. The policy of the apartheid Israel has always been that it used to assassinate Iranian high officials in the past, and then it would never admit it. But everybody used to know that the apartheid state has been behind the killing and assassination of Iranian top officials. But in this particular case, I think we have to be very dispassionate, and we need to wait and see how things unfold, because there are clear evidence that the weather conditions were very bad. There was a thick fog, so the possibility of a helicopter hitting some mountain is I think high. We cannot rule that out. So at a time when all the initial evidence is suggesting that there is a greater possibility that he died of helicopter crashing is greater. But maybe after some time, maybe it will take a week or maybe weeks, when Iranian government would be in a position to determine as to who is behind this accident, or on whether or not maybe an attempt it was his assassination. Because if somebody knew that Iran's president is going to move this direction, and there could be fire from the ground, but that is a possibility. But then again, the bigger question is, in a thick fog, looking at the helicopter from the ground is something easier said than done, no matter what kind of micro or macro devices they use to detect the helicopter. So therefore, I think it would be premature to suggest that Israel would be behind this crash. Let's see how the investigation takes place and what evidence they gather. Only then we would be in a position to conclude as to what happened to the Iranian helicopter.
Now, lastly, what has been the international reaction to President Ebrahim Raisi's death, or rather, what can we expect from world powers?
Well, I think the kind of the reaction that should have come from the Western countries, that is not there, because Iran is perceived to be very hostile in the West. But certainly there are words of sympathies, condolence we have seen, which are more rituals than actually feeling it. It may be the regional countries do feel over his sad death, but so far as the Western countries are concerned, I think for them, they are looking at the possibility, more, they are jubilant behind the scene, if not at least, they are looking at the possibility that how they can further destabilize Iran. For them, it is an opportunity to further economically destabilize Iran, politically destabilize Iran. But so far as the regional countries are concerned, the general public in Muslim countries are concerned, they are sad because Iran, under his leadership, was resisting and still resisting even after him. So therefore, it is a tragedy for many people, mostly for the Muslims, given the resilience and the resistance that Iran has demonstrated over the period of time, and more particularly during last 6-7 months, Iran has used every possible mean, like using proxies in Iraq, in Syria, in Yemen, in Lebanon, to carry out attacks against apartheid Israel and giving Israel very tough time, particularly the northern region of Palestine, occupied Palestine, under the control of Israel. I think the Hezbollah has given very tough time to Israel. Hundreds of thousands of Israeli people, they have relocated themselves from the northern part of Israel to elsewhere. So there is internal displacement. So credit does go to Hezbollah, which has been backed by Iran. And then we have to also see what is happening in the Red Sea, where the 12 to 15% international trade passes through. So, and the Houthis have been giving a very, very tough time. They've disrupted the international trade. Both UK and the USA have been carrying out attacks, dozens of attacks on Houthis in Yemen, but that did not actually stop them to continue attacking the Israel and Western interest in the Red Sea. The only purpose of which to build up pressure on the West to stop supporting the apartheid, the genocidal war on Gaza. So I think we have to be, honest and accept the reality that Iran has come a long way to help out Palestinians at a time when the other so-called brother Arab states, they have clearly abandoned them. For the Arab rulers, for the monarchs, Hamas is a problem, because if Hamas wins, they fear that it means that the Muslim Brotherhood would expand its network in the Arab countries. Therefore, at the cost of the even genocide of Palestinians, 45,000 people have died if we include the people who are still under the rubble. The Arab monarchs have put up with it. Iran, at least, have shown resistance. I think that is where I would say the credit does go to Iran. Iran carried out one of the biggest attacks on Israel, though it was more symbolic. But again, that does happen under the leadership of the late president.
Javed Rana, thank you for joining NewsHour and thank you for your analysis.
The growing tide of anti-Israel sentiments. What you see behind me is just tip of the iceberg of what is happening in the country. More than half of $52 billion black CIA budget is spent on espionage network in Pakistan. How would you handle it?
The US has looked upon Pakistan as an ally at one point and then as an enemy at the same time.
That is going to be the first legalism on the basis of which he is going to be instantly ousted by the Supreme Court of Pakistan.
Joining us live, Javed Rana, who's an expert on politics and geostrategic issues.
In the world politics, which is not being driven by any moral principle, it is being driven by the hard geostrategic realities. In a broader picture, more countries would aspire to have nuclear weapons.